actually more high definition.
You look fine to me.
Thank you.
Can everyone hear Moses?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How about here? How about here? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happens if I do that. I'm officially I mean, I don't
Can everyone hear Moses?
Raise your hand if you can hear me. They can't hear me.
Audience participation.
Yeah. All right. Good morning. It is morning still, right? Yeah. By the way, if you see these driving in, we're gonna have to fill all the seats. Maybe.
That doesn't help. I was at that church.
All right. So this is a very obscure. My titles. I'm not good at titles. So this is my talk, right? It's a talk around the complexity that is our lives. So I figured I'd make fun of it. So I made it a meme. The whole thing is a meme now. Clear warning, but I have to put this because you know, I work at a big company and they frown upon my opinions. So my opinions are my own. So if anybody's ever curious. So my name is Moses Hernandez. Somebody actually said we'd be honored if you would come to speak at the BsidesOrlando event, and if you could be our keynote, you would be a great representative for the Florida InfoSec community. I'm not sure what they were smoking, but I'm here now. So, or drinking. So I work at Cisco Systems. They're a small, obscure hardware manufacturer that makes cameras in San Jose. I'm a SANS community instructor for their web app pen testing stuff. I'm now the co-chair of the South Florida OWASP community. And if you want to know more about me, just come ask. So, and of course, huge supporter of the Lean In and Lean In Together. Anybody here know what that is, Lean In? A few people? Yeah, go see that. It's awesome. So definitely want to make sure people see that. So I think it was this time last year. Last year, I had a couple interesting talks. We talked about the new arms race, as in culture and people and tools are not that important, and really around whether us as a community fit into that landscape. And it was interesting, right? We talked about what I felt was the InfoSec arms race, right? So it was the idea that things were kind of spiraling out of control. And in the last 12 months, I've been really, really busy. So things feel like they're spiraling a little bit out of control. So I want to kind of expand on that theme today. And so now I get to do it in front of all you people. I'm so sorry it has to be in the morning. All right. So first, I wanted to talk to you about 3 things today, like I always do. And so the first one is around failure. Failure, I think, is an interesting topic that we should all come to enjoy, especially in this field. Anybody here failed ever? Sweet. We all fail, right? So first, I started thinking about this, and I was like, we're all curious people. At least I want to think we're all curious people, and that we don't wear tinfoil hats at night only, right? But we all get in this room, and by the way, this is terrible that I have to mention it at a conference. But we all get in this room, and you listen to someone like me talk, and we all start thinking the same way. It's kind of like that hive mind mentality, right? The echo chamber, we call it. And so we all start thinking and assuming that things are the way they are, and you either go negative or positive. And anybody that you talk to lately says, we are really negative, right? Everything is kind of not great, and there's no good answers, and spiraling out of control. So I think we're starting to be a good case study in the ideas of groupthink or hive minds. Anybody ever see me on Twitter, you understand that there is a hive mind out there, and that people start to look at that hive mind. By the way, black and blue. Everybody knows the dress is black and blue. And then so we all start to wonder what happens during that hive mind. So one of the things I've realized in my career is that we seem to have this concept of a resume generating event. Anybody ever heard that term? Right? Right? Every day, oh, that's going to be a resume generating event, right? Why? Right? Why would that be a resume generating event? So that's what I was really thinking about over the past year or so. And so, a few things that I want to talk about. One is, can we fail? Are we allowed to, as a community, fail and be okay with it? So my wife, she decided to be a nurse many years ago, and I got to hear about all the medical stuff. And I worked in healthcare for about 10 years. So anybody know who this is? Fleming. Alexander Fleming, actually. Alexander Fleming is famous for failing. Well, Alexander Fleming is famous for inventing penicillin. And the way that he invented penicillin was through failure, actually. He actually had a lab, and labs are supposed to be contained, and they're supposed to be clean and free of bacteria, and he had a failure in his own lab protocol, and so a bacteria was introduced. That bacteria fought off other bacteria. Boom, penicillin was discovered. Well, actually, a lot of his peers thought that he was kind of crazy, or that he didn't make sense, because they couldn't replicate his conditions. And it turns out he couldn't replicate them because they were working in a clean room. His actual way of replicating it was he had a breach or a failure in his lab and introduced spores. And that's how penicillin was invented. So, failure, but in a good way. So, when I look at these kind of things that happen, and I talk about airlines and airplanes and different failure scenarios, you can't help but wonder if really the people that are responsible for some of these things completely, they may have not had a job, right? Perfect example, right? You get in a balloon, the balloon is filled with some kind of gas, it explodes, everyone dies. Oh my God, how'd that happen? It's weird. That can happen. And now nobody flies in giant balloons. Well, not in mass anyway. Yeah, they still have them, right? The Goodyear blimp, it's fun, but not our normal mode of transportation. So last year I was saying, hey, we've got this situation where we are in a panic, and everybody wants an answer now. Right? We need that silver bullet answer right now because we have to solve the security problem immediately. Hackers are winning for the lulz. They're just, now it's just too much fun, right? And so, really, it's because the marketplace that you're in of generating profits and revenues and just the way that we work as a society, as a world, is unforgiving. And so the security guys have to be perfect. We gotta be perfect, we can't fail, it's impossible. Especially not publicly. So here's what we should be asking. Can I fail? Is failure a good thing? I fail all the time, actually. That's the one thing we need to think about. And if we can fail, well, what is the consequences of me failing? Should I be fired immediately for failing? I actually was listening to anybody here ever heard DevOps Cafe? Oh, it's an awesome podcast. You guys gotta listen to it. It's amazing, right? So last year my talks were around DevOps and that whole concept of culture and community, and I love that idea. And really, these talks are around the same thing. So one of the things I was listening to them interview Sidney Decker. Sidney Decker is a safety person, and I have a bunch of his quotes here. Really awesome interview with him. And it was great because now I could take some of Sidney's actual words and put them in the slide, and I asked him, hey, can I use some of your quotes? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And some of that comes from his thought process around safety and safety systems and quality control. I was like, oh, cool, Sidney, you're awesome. So, can we fail? Are we allowed to fail? And if we fail, well then what? How many people here have ever taken down a network? Right? Okay, awesome. How many people here would fire somebody for taking down a network? Once, just once. One person. How many people here would fire them if they did the same thing twice? Okay, how about if they did the same thing 3 times? There is no 3 times, huh? I mean, but why? I don't know. Why? Why, right? So let's explore this because we are losing something in this conversation. We are losing a lot of information. So, what happens in a lot of places is you take down the network and immediately you have to take the person out and burn the witch. Right? And so what happens is my name is still incendiary in many places. Even if I haven't worked there 10 years ago, it's an incendiary thought, right? And so you put the person out, you take them out, you burn the witch, and that's it. Everything will be solved. Nobody will ever do that again, whatever that was. Well, so then you get into these weird areas where who's doing what then? Nobody's doing anything? Right? Yeah, and it's funny. Sidney puts it this way. I thought it was a great quote. It is, as soon as we try to simplify down the failure, whatever it is, whatever the failure was, miscue, whatever, to a mistakes of a few individuals in the system, we deny ourselves learning. We don't know why that person did it, because we've done the most barbarian or medieval thing we can, which is, I don't understand what they did, fire them, nobody will ever do it again, they will see the consequences of that person's actions. Right? So, that's a problem. And so, we think that we are actually in control. We're complexity on top of complexity on top of complexity, we're in control. And that's not true. So then we start working in these environments, right? Nobody does anything, right? Because if you do anything, you will be fired, right? Can't do anything. So anybody ever, I've been in places where nobody can do anything at all. They can't make any changes. Changes are bad, they're evil. And then they start falling behind in the market. They start getting these old, went to a place where they still had systems, operating systems and stuff from the 90s as their ubiquitous operating environment for all their desktops. And you wonder, like, why are you guys stuck? Well, nobody can do anything. And so you have these guys. They gotta be busy. Gotta do busy stuff. Busy empire stuff, right? Because you can't. Because as soon as somebody makes a change, they're the ones that are gonna get burned. Okay? So what's funny is, in one of his books, he says, unjust responses to failure are almost never the result of bad performance, right? Performance reviews immediately when you get when something happens. That's not right. Right? Oh, the network went down, immediate performance review. That's not how it works, right? It shouldn't be how it works. And so they're really the result of just improper relationships. Right? Maybe middle management's getting squeezed or something. And most of it is because, I've heard John Chambers say this, right? He says that IT is a gladiator sport. Right? You gotta be the best, you gotta be number one, you gotta be the one at the top, or you will be out of that market. Only the strong survive. And really, if you think about it, how many of these names are familiar? Zynga, Farmville, BlackBerry, Novell. Right? Microsoft's still around. They make touch tablet thingies. Right? And the same thing happens in your enterprise. I heard a stat the other day. It was of the top Fortune 500 companies of this century, of this decade, only about 40% of them will actually survive, which means that almost 300 companies are gone. Some kind of stat like that. It's insane. Right? Because of that, because of these destructive, anybody ever creative disruption, right? What does that mean? Creative disruption. That means people are going to come in and take over the market because you couldn't have that. And so that's just what we face. And so what I want to go back, first lesson that I wanted to get everybody to go home with today is failure, in a sense, is a good thing. As long as you take away something. You have to feed back. This is an engineering science in a lot of ways. But it's not a known quantity. So you have to take something back with you. You have to understand why things fail. So go on with that. Number one thing is failure, in a sense, is a good thing. Now, because we can't fail, because we have to be perfect in a young science, because we're not allowed to be certain things, I have a fear. It's coming. Right? That's what everybody says. Regulation is coming. So I'm going to call it out right now. CFA. CFA is not what I'm talking about. CFA is a law. You know, we can argue about the mechanics of it and its nature. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. So CFA, let's take CFA out for a minute. If you think it's good or you think it's bad, there are channels for that. What I do want to talk about is this. Breach fatigue. I think that at this point, these numbers are starting to wash away. We don't even care anymore. It's like, oh, another 500 million credit card numbers, another 100 million medical record numbers. I think I've been breached about 35,000 times anyway. So I'm in a database somewhere. This does not include Sony. This does not include Anthem or Promera or any of those. This is just some easy numbers, right? So we got to talk about regulation because it's going to come. It's going to come in some form. I just have a feeling that we're going to have some kind of regulation, and the lawyers might say no, but it's not, or we're going to reform it. But I have a feeling that at some point, 100 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever that timeline is, something will happen. So if something's going to happen, well, let's put the cards on the table and talk about regulation. This is a part of the talk that everybody hates when you talk about. I remember this, right? That was a huge thing. People out in the streets, Wikipedia is going to go dark. All these websites are going to go dark. Stop certain campaigns. This is the fear. The fear is the clamping down of everything. No internet. Right? Big brother coming at you. So, what we do is say, you know what? We cannot regulate the internet. We're going to regulate ourselves. That's the answer. Self-regulation. Okay. So, anybody here went through Andrew? Right? That was pretty awesome, right? I remember that in Andrew, there was a lot of people talking about, so in Andrew, there was a lot of people that were saying, that's homestead, that's bad. And I remember that we live in this world where we have no regulation. But sometimes regulation is good. Right? Andrew's a perfect example. We probably needed better housing codes. Just a little bit. So, banking regulation. It's an easy one. Anybody here like history? I love history. History's awesome. So, bancarrota, right? That's the Italian or Latin way of saying bankruptcy. So, what is the history of bankruptcy? Well, money changing desks. Money changing desks existed in Venice and some other places in Italy where people go and exchange money and you get paper money and all that. And when the money changers ran out of money, no liquidity, right? It's a very common banking thing, no liquidity, ran out of money, and then they would signify that they were out of business. They would signify this by literally breaking their benches. So the benches would break. Right now I'm out of business, and so that word kind of carried forward. If you look at most modern day banking runs, where people say, I need to take all my money out of the bank, it's in the form of a liquidity challenge. Right? It's in the form of, the bank is out of money, I better go get my money before I can actually lose it all. Right? And then if you think about America prior to the Federal Reserve, when you had a liquidity challenge, before FDIC really, when you had a liquidity run, you literally could be left without money. Right? So the FDIC and the Federal Reserve, good or evil, whatever, tinfoil hats, whatever you think about it, they actually do some guaranteeing of your money so that you could stop the bank runs and stop banking failures. I mean, that's the concept anyway. We could talk about 2008 and the banking and shadow banking and whatever. This is just the historical nature of banking runs. That's good regulation. Here's an example of where regulation goes bananas. Anybody ever flown an airline? Have you flown an airline lately? Empty seats? How many empty seats? Tell me the last time you flew an airline that had any empty seats. It's almost impossible, right? Why? Well, this is why. You see, the airline system was highly, highly regulated in the early days. I mean, this is a poster of you should not travel because World War II. Don't travel. Evil person to travel. Support the war, right? The NTSB was very locked down, right? Air travel was a highly regulated industry until the Carter administration started the Airline Deregulation Act, or the Congress passed the Airline Deregulation Act, deregulating the airlines. You still have some fallout from the many tens of hundreds of years of airline regulation. It's getting a little better now. You're not going through bankruptcy every month now, which is nice. But yeah, you have all these issues. It's deregulated. Is an example of deregulation. Good. The problem is, not the problem, but what they did to make sure that the airlines would still be good is they said the number one thing in the Airline Deregulation Act is safety. If airplanes fall out of the sky, no one's going to fly. Right? And this goes back to incentivizations, right? My credit card gets breached, doesn't really matter to me, right? Because I get a new one. And you wonder, why are we fixing the credit card issue? It's because it really doesn't affect anybody. But airplanes falling out of the sky, that would not be good. So yeah, airline deregulation actually created a market, a free market. But safety was the number one thing. No one was going to fly. So what is here? We already have the CFA, we already have CALIA, we already have self-regulation, PCI, self-regulation. That's worked out very well. We have NERC, it's a private company-ish. We have GILBA, we have SOX, we have the DMCA. What you're going to see, potentially, maybe, I mean, we've already tried, right? CISPA, PIPA, CISPA's kind of, I don't know if it's coming back on that. Executive orders, right? We're seeing all the executive orders. Breach notification, federal kind of laws. We don't know, right? I mean, we do see that something will be out there. One of the biggest reasons I think we're going to see regulation, other than the fact that our credit card and our personal information is continuously getting breached, is in the form of this. This is a Bluetooth RFID enabled pacemaker, right? So pacemakers are interesting because they kind of just sit there and they regulate your heartbeat. And doctors don't want to keep having a physically plug in because we have all this wireless technology. So why not use Bluetooth or RFID or some other spectrum to modify the pacemaker? Well, if somebody were to find some uber zero-day pacemaker technology and then all of a sudden stop somebody's heart, or playing around stop somebody's heart, how many coroners or how many detectives on the planet would be like, that was a hacker, I know it, right? They wouldn't. They'd just be like, oh, that's a guy that had a heart attack. And so that's a problem, right? Because there could be some problem, and we're not logging it, we're not tracking it. You can kind of just make it, and as long as it doesn't do something seriously damaging to a person, as in it works, FDS okay. Right? And so because of things like this, you might see regulation where you just can't put internet attached devices inside of people's bodies today, right? And that's one of the reasons I think regulation might become. However, just like banking regulation, banks gonna go away. Airline regulation, airlines gonna go away, right? Housing regulation, houses gonna go away. Plumbers in your house, plumbers gonna go away. It'll be okay, right? So when somebody talks about regulation, even though it looks scary, I think some of it will be okay. It's not all bad and it's not all good. So we just need to be aware. Hopefully you're contacting some folks. So that's just story number 2. The last thing that I really want to talk about, and this will be the majority of the conversation, or the remainder of the conversation, is where we are as a community today. So you're sitting in a room with all these people that want to hear about all these really cool attacks and everything, and I'm boring you to death now. However, there's that one piece of me that thinks that there's a better way, a way forward. It's that hopeful side. So if you want to know the way forward, sometimes it's good to look backwards. Sometimes. So I want to add some context. We talked about this, right? Breach fatigue. 56 million records or something, right? So this happened, and who can tell me the exact dynamics of exactly how this happened? Because if you can, you're either breaching an NDA, or talking about it out of turn, or you just lying. Okay, so nobody can really say how this happened. Okay, let's take a better case, because this is a bad case. This is a case where, unfortunately, we don't know much information, right? This is a bad case. Who can tell me how this happened? The same way they don't practice, right? Something to do with an HVAC guy, right? And you know this. How do you know this? Talked about it. How about I've seen this blog before, right? Everybody's seen it, right? That's how we know. That's how we know that this happened, because that guy told us. Or because he did a law. If you're one of the people that work in investigation, well, you know. Or that guy told us, so this is now common law as fact. Target was HVAC. We all agree. It's peer-reviewed. And Target being HVAC means that the stock market took a dive because, oh my God, cyber. We're so important that the whole company is ruined because of cyber. I swear. But I really can't explain this part where they're worth more today than they were then. They must have fixed cyber. That's the answer. They spend a lot of money to fix cyber. There could be another reason exactly why it happened. Right? So, I mean, it's true that they must have fixed cyber, them exiting Canada or doing some other kind of a mechanical business move was not it, because cyber was the reason. So, Target, bad company. I saw this the other day, and I said, yeah, this is why the stock price is completely divorced from reality, right? Because the shareholders don't understand cyber. We don't measure cyber security, and we have no idea of the impact. So therefore, ignore that, buy more stock. Right? This is from the Harvard Business Review. I think that it's a pretty good reason why the stock market is like it is. But Target is still evil. I know it because I'm a cybersecurity guy, and Brian Krebs told me that HVAC was the answer. Now, this book by a gentleman named Charles Duhigg. Anybody ever read this book? Oh, you gotta read this book. This book is awesome, right? It's called The Power of Habit. He talks about the different things that we do in our brains that create patterns in our lives. And those patterns, subconsciously or consciously, affect what we do. Like he talks about somebody who had a really bad case of emphysema. It affected his brain. He lost a lot of short-term memory. He can't remember more than 5 minutes ago. However, he still knows how to use the bathroom, like in a new house, because he's done it so often that it's habitual. He knows how to get up, use the bathroom. You ask him where the bathroom is, he has no idea, but he can still do that. So Charles goes in here and says, you know, there's actually a company out there that was able to figure out when people were pregnant before they knew that they were even pregnant, based on their body habits. And they did this in like the middle to late 2000s. Super innovative company, right? They actually got in trouble for sending pregnancy coupons to a teenage girl. Right? Kind of innovative, kind of intrusive privacy. But there's no way that this company that was that innovative could have ever had a cybersecurity issue, except it was Target. So Target was this innovative company when it came to data science, but they had this breach, so they must be not good. Right? So then you're left with this question, huh? So if Target is innovative, are they not innovative? Are they not good? Which one is it? You're either really good or really not. So you're left scratching your head. So Target is a mystery to me. I don't think we know the full answer. I don't think any of us know the full answer unless you work at Target or you're part of the breach response team or you have some kind of relationship there. So we go back to failure. Could Target have had something else going on? So we're in the Space Coast, and I remember this as a kid. This was the coolest thing you could ever be as a kid was an astronaut. At least if you were my age. Now I don't know, but the coolest thing you could be was an astronaut. You were like a modern day explorer. It was really cool. And then, so we all sat in a room, I must have been in first or second grade, and we're watching a teacher go into space and it blows up. Kind of traumatizing as a kid. But if you think about it, you go, man, that's pretty bad. So it comes down to shuttle complexity and what happened. So the Challenger explosion, how do we know about this, Bound? We know about this because there was a commission report on the Challenger explosion that the NCSB participated in. They don't have jurisdiction, but they participated in it. And they found that there was a technical issue with the Challenger in which an O-ring failed. Well, how did the O-ring fail? The O-ring failure, tank explodes, bye-bye astronauts. So the O-ring manufacturer actually didn't want to sign off on the launch that day because supposedly the launch that day in Cape Canaveral is 50 degrees. You know Florida, 50 degrees for a little while, frost in the morning, right? But they never tested the O-rings at 50 degrees. They have no idea what would happen with the O-rings at 50 degrees. What ended up happening was NASA had been overrun with what they call go fever. A lot of systems, very complex. All these systems check out except one, but you still want to launch. So they want to go. And so they launched anyway, and that was a failure. But we reconstructed this over a couple of years. And so that was how we know what happened technically and operationally at NASA. So tell me how we do that for Target. Kind of hard. So we go back to this thought. We deny ourselves an immense amount of learning as a community because I've looked it up by the way, all the commissioned reports from the senators and from all the different Congress people around Target have media as their channel for understanding these events. I'm not saying that the media is bad, I'm not saying investigative journalism is bad, but it's not independent and it's not scientific at times. You don't know. Right? Is it peer reviewed? You don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, nobody knows. So, here's my idea. My idea is that we try to emulate what the business people are doing. So how do business people learn? They get a case study, they all work on it together as a group, and then they come up with something. Now, you're saying, well, how would we mechanically do that? Well, our field is only 30, 40 years old. It's not the same as business that's been around 150, 200 years, or whatever you want to say about business, medical fields, or lawyers, or accounting. Our field is relatively young. So, I don't know how we would do this day one, but this is kind of a direction we need to go in. Because if not, we're just going to keep having these issues. So regulation comes, somebody's got to do something, you can't even answer it correctly. So I hate this picture. All right, this is my back of the napkin math. Like, how would you mechanically do this? This should be somebody's PhD thesis paper, not my back of the napkin math 5-minute diagram, flow diagram. Because there's all sorts of problems with this. Like how do you get an entity to commit? How do you analyze data? Is it technical? Is it operational? How do you sit there and collect the data? What questions do you ask? What students do you pick? It's really hard. It's not that easy to just say, boom, it's done, we can do it. Pay somebody. Collectively, it's a big effort. But I think it's somewhere we need to go. So I thought I would propose it. The concept would be simple, I guess. Right? If you work with institutional educational bodies, they shouldn't have a profit motive. So normally, you look at HBS, UPenn, one of these business schools, you could say, yeah, but those business schools are highly funded, so they do have a profit motive. Yeah, but they should be also biased because the people that are attending the schools don't actually always work at the school, so, it is and it isn't, right? So it should be peer review, it should not include speculation. That's easy, right? That's the easy part. Having these rules, could do this in a day, right? The hard part is, how do you anonymize data? Should you anonymize data? Who should you anonymize, right? So I don't know, if the Department of Health and Human Services gets breached, then that's a government agency, right? Is that data anonymized? Should you know about it as a taxpayer? Not a lawyer, I don't know. There needs to be other avenues, right? There needs to be a way to figure out if there was a technical issue, an operational issue. How do our IT business leaders know what to do? They don't, because they only know what's in the paper, right? They don't have the experience. I know people today still haven't gone through a public breach. But you expect them though, when they go through a public breach, they're not handling it perfectly. No failure, right? But we should be allowed to fail because we just talked about it. The stock price is not tied to the cyber breach. So then what's the problem? Why are we firing people? Right? These are all the cultural dynamic things that are happening that we need to address because I started as a grunt, but I'm no longer necessarily a grunt. Right? And so the people that I started with, they're running in C-level VP positions, and so these are the business. This could be you one day, sitting in the audience as a VP, wondering, am I going to get fired because I didn't put in XYZ product? Like if that was going to be the magical silver bullet, that somehow XYZ product worked here and not over there. Right? So, what we need to think about. We need to think about how do we start finding these problems and finding these answers so that we can kind of go through it. Now, measuring is one of the things we don't do very well, right? But if you're going to build really cool cars, you got to measure a lot, right? I know I was a mechanic before, so I can tell you. Measuring is really cool, but you got to measure. So a friend of mine, told you like history, a friend of mine saw this talk and said, you should hear the talk about samurai swords. Now, I've ever been to a conference where the people are kind of quirky. Just saying. And so samurai swords were, I was like, really, I should give a talk about samurai swords? Sword makers. Try to say swords makers a lot really fast. It's hard. Swords makers. Anyway. So what is, by the way, what do samurai swords do? Anybody? Huh? They kill, right? Well, how do you know they kill? You gotta try to kill, right? So samurai swords, to figure out their effectiveness, one way of doing it is to, well, emulate killing. The other way of doing it is to actually kill people. Mind you, if you ever talk to anybody that's ever manufactured anything in Japan, what will they tell you? Oh, the Japanese, they have all these. You know, there's a story about Apple. Apple tried to sell Macs in Japan. They shipped them all over there. The Japanese opened the box, and they immediately closed the box and returned every single Mac. That was an Apple IIs or whatever, Apple PowerBook maybe? I don't know. So what happened? The Japanese realized that quality control was tied to even things like packaging. So if the manuals weren't the right way, if the actual machines were not the right way, if the packing was not the right way, then the quality of the entire product was subject to question, and he immediately wanted to get rid of it. That was the idea. And a lot of that comes from this. You cut something, and based on the fact that you cut it, based on the fact that it worked, you want to replicate that. And so everything was measured, everything was passed down, everything was precise, so that you had the ultimate killing instrument. And they did a lot of it through like religious chants and things like that. So they knew if they chanted a certain way, that it would be, you'd affect the chemical makeup of the sword, and so that's how they were passing their knowledge on. Oh, by the way, they had a bit of an issue called that. Suji, I don't know. Yeah, but the idea was that samurai people in the feudal system, they could just kill you. Right? If you didn't like it, they could just kill you. And there was actually an issue, anybody seen the 47 Ronin story? There was actually an issue of one of them just going around killing people. But he was testing the sword. It was effective. So, they were doing emulation, right? They were actually looking at rice, but people, cadavers, but actual live people too. So sometimes, if you want to get good, you want to measure, and you want to know what's happening, you gotta do it by killing the patient, right? And that's the thought process. So we've got these breaches happening. People are quote unquote dying, but we're not learning how they do it, how to stop it, and so they keep happening over and over and over again. And we're just like, yeah, that's bad. We suck as an industry. It's not repeatable and it's not measurable because we don't know how to measure because it's the kimono everybody keeps closed, we can't talk about it, we don't want to let you know that we've been breached, our stock price will go down. Right? And nobody knows. So, we got to think about another interesting issue with measuring, which is how we incentivize people. Right? We incentivize them by no bugs. Anybody here participate in a bug bounty? No bugs, no bugs. Bugs are bad. No, we want to kill all the bugs. And so I remember this in the 90s, and I was like, wow, we've been fighting this. This is a comic from the 90s. I was like, yeah, we've been fighting this problem for a long time. We're just going to write ourselves a bunch of minivans, and we'll be good, right? Write a bunch of bugs, solve the problem, no software flaws, right? So everybody's moving towards this test-driven development track, trying to make sure that everything is green, no bugs are bugs, yet we're all still getting hacked and hacked and hacked. Right? So this is obviously working. We don't know. So maybe what we should do is license everybody, right? Everybody should get licensed, blah, blah, blah. That's got to be it. If everybody's licensed, then everybody knows how to do this, and everybody's perfect, and That's got to be the answer. Turns out it's not. Turns out that licensing is a challenge for a number of reasons. Because I looked this up. I said, why aren't we, well, professionals? How many people here think we are professionals? How many people here are engineers, architects, hackers, drinkers? That's not a profession. So, test time. Which one of these are we? Profession, discipline, or job? Right? So we're actually, let's see this gentleman got it right. We're actually a job. We're actually just an occupation. And there's a very good reason for this, but we are actually an occupation. There's actually a study that came out by the National Academy of Professionals, I think it's a government body. And it turns out cybersecurity is a broad field. We can all attest to that, forensicators, hackers, blah, 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 whatever, right? Which needs a lot of advanced training. However, professionalization is something that can happen for certain people at a certain time. We just shouldn't do it now. Well, why shouldn't we do it now? If you look at the Cisco cybersecurity report or any report, we're about 1 million people short. And if you started to license people now, think about it. You go through school. I hate to say this at the university, but you go through school today. What you started, let's say you started in the summer of 2006, and you graduated in the fall of 2010. I'm being kind, right? Well, you started your college career with BlackBerries, and you ended up with iPhones. So there's a disconnect, right? So not everything in our field can be just translated. So certain disciplines will need to be matured. That's part of the issue. Going back to this, if you don't have a good organizational, educational body that's looking at security, things like this start to wash away, right? Because we should have PhD people thinking about, well, how do we take in data, build a case study, anonymize data, make it so that it works, make it so that we learn from the mistakes of the people in the past. But we don't, and we rediscover these bugs, and we're like, oh, it's a new bug. DLL planting. Like, that wasn't an issue with DOS or batch files. So, before you're discouraged, because I think that everybody's looking at this going, oh, we are so screwed. There's some things that we do not do very well. We don't measure very well, so we have a lack of peer-reviewed documentation from a scientific nature. Now, there are PhD papers on classes of bugs. That's good. But it's not an overall mechanical or behavioral, say, view. We don't share lessons from these breaches all too well. Like I said, how did Home Depot happen? I have no idea. We do a few things well. We do internally share stories at the pub. Right? We kind of do these peer reviews, right? If you come out with something and say, I am the world's #1 hacker, Twitter doesn't like that. That turns out. We do have our own language. Well, why is that important? Having your own language, like a doctor, means that we're on our way to discipline. That's why. We do have a seat at the table because we have CISOs. That's good. And CISOs. I know that people don't think it's good, but you know, the original auditors started out as accounting folks because the original IT systems were accounting systems. So having a seat at that table or having your CEO of your company say that this is a problem, it's a good thing. So before you go off and listen to people talk about really cool things like me, I have a story about a profession that started off like ours that potentially, or that is, different. Florence Nightingale, did we ever, it's a nurse. What's one of the most interesting things about nursing is that a long time ago we had a shortage of people, doctors, and we needed more care. Sound familiar? And so the problem here is that you just take people off the street, you show them how to treat somebody, and people start dying of their wounds or of infection instead of the initial reason that they're there. Florence Nightingale created a methodology or an actual structure for how to treat people, right? So that you can, It's crazy. If you wash your hands or if you like wash the tool that you use to cut something with, bacteria doesn't happen. So crazy story. Anyway, so this person made a difference. And then throughout the years, different nurses became researchers, became philosophers, became people of thinking status. And so you listen to their work and you read their work in the nursing profession. And actually it's a nursing discipline. So here's what I want to leave you with. Today we are at a point where we are at the quote unquote precipice, or what I feel is a precipice of our field. And so there is an opportunity, a real opportunity to cement yourself in history. Now when you're a kid, you think, I want to change the world. Then you get older, you get cynical, and you say, maybe I don't want to change the world, I can't do it, I'm too old. But I say you can. There is an opportunity for every one of us to really cement ourselves in the field. Because if we're going to add 1 million people, we are not enough. And so that's an opportunity to leave your mark on humanity. Because with IoT, it will be left the mark on humanity. And so it's now. So I say thank you to the Bsides community for having me come and talk. Enjoy the day. And if you need to talk to me or see me, I'll be around. And you can find me here. And that's all.